It's our responsibility to make sure that we drive that. The other objective is to develop a roadmap. You can imagine developing a roadmap within 2 hours with concrete policy actions for mainstreaming agroecology in the Post-Malabo CAADP Strategy Action Plan implementation. Having said that, I think it is also important for us to understand the political economy of agroecology. One issue there, as we try to move, because when we integrate agroecology, it's another way of slightly moving away from industrial agriculture on the continent, though we can't move out completely. But then we have to understand the 8 lock-ins in industrial food systems. That one is Googleable. You just say the 8 lock-ins in industrial food systems. That you will see how difficult it will be to integrate agroecology from those 8 lock-ins. You will understand. I want us to look at the lock-ins so that you know the magnitude of the task at hand. Then the last issue is now moving from the lock-ins now. There are some solutions that you get that can unlock the lock-ins gradually. I also want to thank the EU and IFAD for funding this event.
And 4 minutes. That should be enough. And we organized 3 series of meetings in Kampala again with the press. In Kampala with the press, we produced a statement. There was a flood of statements from us, even the youth group. There was a big meeting in Addis Ababa, 1,000 Youth Summit. And one of the call by the youth in Africa was to integrate agroecology into CAADP. And we took that and took it to the African Union to submit both our statement and the statement from the youth. And we participated actively during the Kampala declaration process, beginning of January. In all the processes, we pushed for agroecology. And agroecology was not included. That's why, Julian, I came running to this meeting, you see, because there is hope. So, how? I think the first thing that we can do is, I think probably it's good to produce a standalone agroecology policy to be integrated into CAADP, to be later integrated into CAADP. Maybe it's good to produce an agroecology policy or a strategy with all its indicators and details, and hopefully the African Union will accept it. Then we have an agroecology policy and strategy, a separate one. Then we push for integration into CAADP. And at the national level, I think increasing number of countries, both from Southern, I know Zambia and Zimbabwe, even South Africa is already there. And from West Africa, I know Togo, Benin, hugely Senegal, a number of West African countries. Eastern Africa, I know Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. Ethiopia has set up a committee to produce an agroecology strategy. I know because somebody has sent me the letter that they sent to them. So a number of African countries, even in North Africa, Tunisia. So a number of countries are producing agroecology strategy. And in the current CAADP, there are some places that we can put, or indicators, which are responsible closer to agroecology. And finally, what I would beg the CAADP XP4 group to do is create a regional hubs for agroecology and knowledge and practice sharing. That would be great. And finally, agroecology is not a rejection of innovation. Somebody said, is agroecology a connection with the past? No. This morning, the first presentation was, what is FRAS, that insect technology. That's not going back, that's going forward. It's a new thing that are coming. There is so many new innovations in agroecology all over, If you visit the exhibitions and listen to look at the program, that's what tells you. So many innovations. Late CAADP 2026, 2035 champion Africa's own solutions?
Indeed, agroecology, like we have seen since morning, can ably contribute to the CAADP strategy going forward. I believe that I'm talking to the converted. When you look at all the 6 CAADP strategy objectives, you will observe that on each of them, agroecology has something to say. Regarding this contribution, majorly we have the systemic or holistic approach and the landscape approach in agroecology. That has a lot to say regarding the going forward of the CAADP strategy. It enables us to have an integrated and a comprehensive way of understanding the environment within which agriculture is performed, which misunderstanding caused all the missing steps in agricultural development in Africa. The investment and the financing to accelerate agri-food systems is equally impacted by agroecology. You cannot invest ably without understanding very well and in a holistic way where you are investing. Agroecology enables this, and it gives us the opportunity to identify the turning point. It enables us to have an organized way of accessing actors and the communities. And in this, we are able to build synergy and complementarity, which lacks a lot today when we have no balance between the social approach to development and the capitalistic approach to development. We need a balance, and agroecology brings this about. Regarding food and nutrition security, when you go through the CAADP, there is less talk about safe food. Safe food that would enable us to be healthy. This is lacking. Somebody has told me recently that when you relate our medical bills with what it would take for us to have safe food, we are spending too much on health, and if we had safe food, all that would be saved for other developments. Agroecology offers a diversity of species, both nutritive but also with medicinal values. Our cultures are very rich in what safe food and what nutrition has to be. But we have disregarded these diets, and we are building our food system regardless of them. Agroecology can reinstate this. Look at a situation where we have created the free continental trade area. Regarding agriculture, what will states trade to each other? When we have all through maize, all through beans, we have the same commodities. So what shall we trade amongst ourselves in as far as agriculture is concerned? If we fall back to our cultures, then we can have innovative products that we can put across borders. About inclusivity and equity, I think agroecology is again very rich in this, and it can play a very big role in enabling us to bring on board the men, the women, the youth through communities that we engage in agroecology. Talk about the circular and solidarity economy, where each and every member of the community will build their investments in relation to what others are doing in the community. And then each of us will have something to sell to each other, and each of us will have value to each other. And that I can relate with resilience. of building resilience of our food system. Now, issues of land grabbing, social conflict, all those can be ably addressed through agroecology by having harmonious coexistence within communities. We need to take advantage of the strong interest in indigenous knowledge and indigenous commodities, the crops and animals. And if we position these correctly, we can then bring back our youth who are currently being brainwashed. They think that chicken and the chips is the best, the McDonald's, name it. When you prepare beans and bananas, that day they will not have a meal. But if we prepare well, based on our indigenous knowledge, we can bring the youth back.
4 minutes.
Yes, as a way forward, agroecology will offer us lots of way forwards in terms of environmental, social, and economic aspects. I will not go into details of those because they have been the basis of our discussion thereof today. Let me talk about the economic aspect, where we would call upon the World Bank to invest more into agroecology and agroecology projects, other than continuing to support industrial agriculture and what we call conventional agriculture systems. Let us implement agroecology assessment so that we can track our transitioning. Let us mainstream agroecology into other policies. Let us build the capacity of a committed human resource, and let us foster peace across our continent.
Looking at the opportunities that we have, particularly with policy influencing, is that the first one is that we, using the networks that we have at regional level and AFSA, which is of course at continental level, we need to continue to have high-level dialogue with the AUC, that is the African Union Commission. And this is particularly important because despite the fact that the strategy has been signed, there's a possibility for continued engagement, and at midterm review, there is a possibility for integration of agroecology. The other opportunities that we have relates to the development of the Post-Malabo implementation frameworks at regional level and also at national level. So while the continental strategy is final or signed, we still have an opportunity to influence the implementation instruments that will be developed at the REX as well at national level. For most of the countries, they'll be developing NAIPs, and I think that this is very big opportunities. The 10-year action plans that are related to the CAADP that we need to develop. There is also an opportunity to advocate for the inclusion of agroecology monitoring and tracking measures in the CAADP BR process. This is because even if agroecology is not expressly not expressly coming out in the strategy, the implementation framework actually has a mention of agroecology, and there could be tools that could be embedded in the biennial review process that would allow us to track agroecology implementation starting from now when the CAADP starts being implemented. There's also another opportunity for influencing policy coherence at national level. So most of our African countries are developing the agroecology strategies, including Zambia. We have under the UNFCCC, the development of the NDCs 3.0, and for those that are not very familiar with NDCs, these are nationally determined contributions under the climate change and carbon emissions. The development of the national adaptation plans as well. Most countries are revising them now. We also have, in most countries, the development or the review of the national biodiversity strategies and action plans, the NBSAPs, which also have quite a lot of aspects that relate to agroecology. We also have, in most countries, the commitments to the UN Food Systems Summit, and these are the food systems transformation pathways, which clearly speak to agroecology, and there are a lot of sections in the pathways that where we can incorporate agroecology. In terms of the strategies that we can employ or that we intend to employ, there is need for capacity building, particularly for the strategic policy makers. We have a lot of policymakers that do not really understand what agroecology is, and therefore how it can sit into the the Post-Malabo framework, and we need to bring this knowledge to them and also influence how these policies can be embedded in our national and regional policies. Then we also need to raise awareness, general awareness about agroecology, create a movement on the ground. We need all voices on board. We need the youths who, particularly in Africa, are the majority. So they are the majority of consumers. They are the majority of people that need employment, and we need to bring them on board. The women, the farmers. We need a lot of other stakeholders. We need the consumers on board for us to be able to create the movement that can effect this change. We need to continue to advocate and influence policymakers and government technocrats, particularly, in how they will translate the particularly objective 1 and its related objectives 2 to 4 of the Post-Malabo framework, because this is very important at both at regional and national level. When the development of the plans, the action plans, starts taking place, we would need to find ourselves in all these spaces in order to influence. At national, regional, and at continental level, we need to bring the voices together. We will definitely need to harmonize civil society and other stakeholder voices. We will need to harmonize the messages and collaborate, build bigger networks, and also create spaces for the farmers and other stakeholders to participate in these processes. We should not continue to preach to the converted. Yeah, we also need to, I think I spoke about the national level policies and policy frameworks that are under development in different countries, and how we need to find ourselves in these spaces. That also, it is an opportunity, but it's also one of the strategies that we need to use. I understand that as as proponents of agroecology, as a network, as a consortium or coalition or whatever you call yourselves at national, regional, continental level, we are few. But we need to find, and we need to be very strategic to find ourselves in these spaces, particularly in our respective countries, and make sure that we are key in influencing the narratives that end up in these policy documents.
The policies that exist at continental level, and then talk about the regional policy framework, and look at the organization arrangement and support, and then conclude by looking at a few opportunities that are available to support agroecology. This morning, we were told, when you go home, think about creating an enabling environment. Think about investing in agroecology. And think about awareness creation. The African Union Commission is there to create an enabling environment. It is a policy-making body. And it is there to implement the decisions that are made by the heads of states and government. for sustainable, resilient agri-food systems because it plays a crucial role in shaping agriculture-related policies regionally. What is developed at continental level has to come down to the regional level and at national level. What is critical is domestication. So I'll look at a few policies because there are quite many policies that touch agroecology. The first one is the CAADP. And as you are aware, CAADP is a flagship initiative. It provides a framework for African Union member states to eliminate hunger and reduce poverty by raising economic growth through agriculture-led development while protecting the environment. Sustainability is important. And it is a blueprint of African agriculture transformation, which was endorsed by the heads of states. 2003 in Maputo, Mozambique. Then in 2014, the heads of state met in Malabo and they reaffirmed the commitments they made in Mozambique. Now we have the Kampala Declaration. It was signed this year in January during an extraordinary summit. What is now important is for all the relevant stakeholders to participate in the development of national agri-food systems investment plans at national level. And at regional level, the RECs will develop the regional agri-food systems investment plans so that the member states can domesticate the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan 2026 to 2035. When walking in the corridors, I was hearing people saying, no, there is no commitment from the heads of state. No, it's the civil society driving agroecology or organic agriculture. No. There is a decision which was made in 2011 by the heads of state. They saw that member states are not reporting on what is happening in agroecology. And it came out when the BR was presented. And then, in 2011, a decision was made. And member states are required to report on the use of organic fertilizer and also on the status of farmer-managed seed systems in their national seed policy instruments and institutional arrangements. The national seeds authorities, they have to embrace that. Then also, member states are required to report on the agricultural area under ecological, organic, or agroecological practices. It's a commitment. And what is important or what is lacking is implementing this decision at national level. Do we know which committees to report on? When you look at the BR, data is lacking. Maybe the CAADP focal point doesn't interact with people responsible for organic agriculture or agroecological practices. Recently, we had the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Declaration. We have an action plan again on this one. And it talks about the use of organic fertilizers. Besides talking about inorganic fertilizers, we were talking about youth employment. How do you entice the youth to come into agriculture? The African Union have developed the digital agriculture strategy. What is critical again is the domestication. Yes, we had to say, oh, there are some elements of agroecology in CAADP 2026 to 2035. We also have a strategy on ecological organic agriculture, which has been developed. And again, it's the domestication. It's the awareness creation at national level. It's the investment. The political will is there. Political support is there. Policies have been put in place, but it's the implementation. At the regional level, SADC level, we have the RISDP, which also takes care of agroecology. Then with ECOWAS, we have the agricultural policy of the Economic Community of Western Africa. And they also have a strategic plan for sustainable food security. All these make sure that what has been agreed at continental level is mainstreamed in these policy documents. East Africa, we also have some documents, as you can see on the screen. Then the Arab Maghreb Union, they have the small-scale agriculture for inclusive development. It also takes care of agroecology. This slide shows the organization arrangement with respect to the agroecological strategy. The Africa Union chairs the Continental Steering Committee on Organic Agriculture. And the main responsibility is to create awareness and do some resource mobilization, and also making sure that the overall program development is guided accordingly. These are some of the take-home message which we can leverage on. The demand for organic products is quite high. Everyone wants to eat healthy. Then we also have technology and innovation. It also plays a pivotal role in the system. With that, Mr. Moderator, I raise my case.